Today we're going to make the one stitch at a time clock from the Spring 2025 Bella box. This is the So Timeless Bella box. Stick with me and I'll walk you through the stitching and clock assembly. Let's walk through the supplies for the Stitched Moments clock. Make sure we've got everything ready so we can get started. This project comes from your Spring 2025 So Timeless Bella box. The instructions are in the box. This is the clock, so there's a box in the box. We need to cut our fabric per the instructions and make sure we've got all the needed stabilizers. The piece of shape foam comes in the box. You will need your light mesh cutaway and fusible backing. You want to refer to your instructions and which fabrics you need and how to cut them, and then go ahead and flip to the next page. The first step here, it lets you know you need to put your fusible backing on the wrong side of the clock front and the tall vase fabrics. I went ahead and did that already. There's my fusible backing, and this piece has the fusible backing, so I'll use that for the front. This piece does not. This will be the back. In the instructions book, you'll see that this uses an 8x8 hoop, but if you only have a 5x7 hoop, you want to go to your MeTime digital library and download the instructions. I'll be making this with the 8x8 hoop. We're going to go step by step through the beginning. I'll show you how to stitch your base and your shape foam interfacing in case you've never used that product before. We'll walk through all of this together, and then I will do the first applique with you on screen. And then the rest of the appliques and the embroidery, they're all going to be done the same, so I won't film that part. We'll pick up again around step 59, and we're going to go through how to get your project off the hoop, how to assemble your clock, including the instructions on the clock hands, how to put everything together, and how to put your clock together. I'm also using a little bit of a bigger hoop because my square hoop has something in it. In case anyone's new, I'll step you through really quick getting your design on your machine. Here I push embroidery. Want to look for this symbol. I have it on the USB. You can see I have lots of Kimberbell stuff on here. I need to find the Bella box, So Timeless. It's right there. It brings up all the projects. We're going to work on the Stitched Moments clock. I am going to do the 8x8 version, but in case anyone's wondering, you do get the files for the 5x7. I'm sorry, that's not focusing. Let's go back a little bit. I'm going to show you the 5x7. If you're working with that hoop size, you can still make this, you just do it in parts. We're going to go ahead and go back. Grab the 8x8 size. There's my design. I'm going to want to set my design and then go to the embroidery screen. It tells you to wait a while. Now it's ready to go. I need to put my hoop on my machine. You should have already put your fusible backing on the fabric pieces as indicated, hooped your light mesh cutaway, loaded your file on your machine. We're going to start down here. We're going to stitch the clock base, placement lines. The little I means to use a thread that you'll be able to see. I have a beige kind of thread up here, yellowy beige. It'll be fine. I'll be able to see it for this. Go ahead and stitch your placement line. Next, you're going to want to take your shape form interfacing and you're going to cover that placement line. Make sure to tape it as indicated in the picture. I wanted to show you this really quick. It tells you to trim it to 8.5 inches square. I didn't trim it. Here's what it looks like if you don't trim it. It's bigger than your hoop. I tucked it in. It should be okay. I'll add an extra piece of tape here rather than go back and trim it. We're all taped in. We're on step number 6, stitching the clock base tack down line. On step 7, we're going to do some trimming. You want to get rid of the outside part, and then you also want to trim and get that little hole on the center. I have a Kimberbell scissors kit. I've had these for years. I'm going to be using the duckbill scissors. and the little snips to get that small area. If you've never used these before, this side protects your stitches. You want this duck bill facing the center for this because we're getting rid of this outside piece. Let's go ahead and get this trimmed. If you notice your trimming is uneven, maybe there's a little part you want to trim a little bit closer, get your snips, and then you can get a little bit closer with that. This is going to be a bit tricky. You want to trim the inside out, but try not to put a hole in your stabilizer. If, for any reason, if you trim this out and you poke your stabilizer or get a hole in your stabilizer, take some of your Kimberbell paper tape and tape over it, and then keep going with your project. Don't worry, it'll be fine. I'm going to use these, and I'm just going to kind of slowly work to get to the bottom. I'm going to check and make sure I'm not poking my stabilizer. And we'll look again. And I'll keep trimming it that way. Once you've got a small opening, you can get your scissor in underneath. Check and make sure you're not poking through on the bottom. And then you can start trimming around the circle a little bit easier. And if you keep your hand on the bottom, you'll be able to feel if you accidentally start to poke through, or if you've got your scissor slid underneath your shape foam without poking through the back of your stabilizer. Not bad. I'm going to trim this a little bit closer, but remember, this is where your clock hardware is going to go. You're probably not going to see this very well, but I am going to trim that part right there. I didn't get that close enough. We're on number 8. We're going to stitch the clock front placement line. Note here, you're changing your thread color to white, so make sure you change your thread. Next, you want to place your clock front fabric right side up, tape it in place. Now remember, this is the clock front. You cut 2 pieces the same size, but you only put fusible on the clock front fabric. So make sure you grab the right piece of fabric. I'm going to put that down. I'll tape it. We'll stitch the clock front tack down line, and then it says remove the tape, do not trim. Then we'll stitch the center post circle. We're going to go back to my cutting table. We have to trim the inside, and it tells you don't trim the stabilizer. Again, if you happen to do that, put a couple layers of paper tape underneath. It'll be okay. It'll work out. I'm over at the cutting table. I want to trim this fabric and not trim through my stabilizer. I'm going to use the same process. I'm going to kind of pick at it, honestly, and see if I can just get a little thread loose. And once I get it loose enough just to get the tip of the scissor underneath, I'm going to check underneath. Looks good. I'm not poking through my stabilizer. And I'm going to trim this all the way around. That looks pretty good. I'm going to put this on the machine and we'll stitch the zigzag stitch. That came out really good. The next step is stitching quilting detail. We have a thread change. If you're working with your own threads, you can pull your colors ahead of time, but don't be afraid to make changes if you don't think something will look right. I'm going to put this on and we'll stitch the quilting detail. The quilting is done. I'm going to walk you through the first applique. There's another thread change. Make sure you change your thread. You want to stitch the placement line. Then you'll put your fabric down. You'll tack it down. You'll trim. And you'll do the satin stitch. I'll show all of that together. Here we go. Satin stitch is done on the first piece of applique. I will let you get to it and do all of your other embroidery and applique, and then we'll come back together on step 59. I'll show you where that is in the instructions. Here's step 59. After you've done all of your applique and embroidery, we'll pick up again here and we'll work through the final steps of the clock face and then the clock assembly. I wanted to jump in and show everyone something. I'm stitching all the green parts. The green I had picked for this was way too dark, so I picked another green. It turned out to be kind of a neon green. I'll show you in a minute. And then right after this step, my phone alarm went off. I had to get up to give our little epileptic dog her medication, and then I sat back down. I didn't see this. I went right to this, and I changed to this dark blue. But this is what's stitched out. Let me show you what it looks like. This green is pretty bright. I'm going to go ahead and leave it. It's scattered throughout the piece. It looks fine. And here's that dark blue. This should have been a green around here. But I looked forward in the design, and there's going to be some dark blue on this side. I think it's going to balance out. I'm going to leave it. If I really don't like it at the end, I can always pull it out and just skip to that step on the design on my machine and restitch it. Everything is stitched out. I just stitched the buttonhole details. Don't take it off your machine yet. Let's go to the next step. We're going to want to go to the cutting table and get our backing fabric. We're going to fold it in half and fold it in half again. We're going to measure and make a curved cut 1 inch from the corner where the folded edges meet. Let's go do that. Here's my fabric. We're going to go ahead and fold it in half. Actually, here, I'll do it this way. We're going to fold it in half. And then we're going to fold it in half again. You're folding it into quarters. Here, let me fold it down. Sorry. I want the corner up top here. There we go. And what we want to do is make a curved line right here. This is where all your folds are. It says about 1 inch. So I'm going to measure 1 inch and 1 inch. And I'm just going to mark it with a couple pieces of paper tape. Let's go ahead and measure. I can actually use, I have a ruler, but these lines on my mat, they're 1 inch. They're fairly accurate. What I'm going to do, rather than draw on my fabric, I'm going to put tape right there at 1 inch mark. And then I need to get to another place where I can see 1 inch mark. There's my inch. This is a water-soluble marker. These are made by Kimberbell. I have a lot of them because I have the punch needle kits. You're going to want to cut around a curved cut 1 inch from the corner where the folded edges meet. Okie dokie. I'm going to measure in right from the corner and also make a little mark. Blink. Let me show you what I have. 3 small marks. I've got 3 small marks. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go ahead and make a curved cut. This is your clock back fabric. Nobody's going to see it. If it's not perfect, it's okay. You're going to take your fabric back to your embroidery machine. You want to do this wrong side up, so right sides together. We're going to center the hole we just cut over that center post circle, tape it, and then stitch the final outline. Right sides together, and you're going to center. There's your post hole. Get that in the center of your circle, and then tape this down, and you should be on the last step of your project, and you want to stitch down that final outline. See how it shows it on here in black? You don't need to have this in black thread. Sometimes your machine picks funny thread colors. Don't worry about what's on your machine. Use what you're supposed to use. You can take your project out of your hoop. The instructions say to remove project from the hoop and trim 1/4 inch from the final outline. So you're going to trim 1/4 inch around. I really like using pinking shears for any of these projects that are going to be turned inside out, it helps get rid of just a little bit of bulk, especially anything that's round, and I get a better result when I flip these projects right side out. We're at an overhead view now. Hi everybody. I'm going to go ahead and trim. You might see my big baggy t-shirt in the picture. I'm going to use the pinking shears. You're going to want to turn this right side out and poke along the seam line with a blunt tip to smooth that. So let's go ahead and turn it, and then I'll show you some options to use to poke out your seam line. I have a couple different turning tools. This is called a purple fang. You can use this. I wouldn't poke with this edge. I would push with the smooth edge over here. This is a turning tool made by Clover, and this is something my grandfather made. He was a tool and die maker, and he made this for my grandma. This has a nice blunt edge. I'm going to use it to turn this. Then whenever I look at the clock, I can remember that I used the special tool my grandfather made for my grandmother. This looks pretty good. I do have a couple of jump threads that I need to trim. And then I'm going to take this over to my iron and flip it this way and give it a nice good press to get it flat. There's my finished clock base. You can see the bright green looks fine. My button with the blue outline, it looks fine. They're not mistakes, they're design choices. Let's go on to our clock assembly. Your clock is in the box. I went ahead and took it out of the box in the bubble wrap. I'm going to set this aside for the moment. It says to locate your clock base. Remove and discard the paper clock base. Let's go ahead and take the clock apart. It lifts right off. There's the outer ring. Here's the plastic front. Here's the paper clock base. You don't need it. If you want, you can keep it to use as a circle template. If you ever need to make something that's a circle, it's a nice piece of cardstock. Maybe you can use it for something else. So recycle it or save it. I'm going to set that aside. It says to set the clock base on a flat surface with the light side facing up, that's this piece, and the hook in the 12 o'clock position. Now I can actually feel something on the back. Yep, take your parts off the back. Go ahead and set that on your table. You want this side up. It says to locate the clock mechanism and orient it with the center post facing up and battery compartment in the 6 o'clock position. Find this bag. You want to take out the square piece. Here's your square piece. I'm going to tell you right now, I've never put the clock quite like this together. So if this is your first time, it's my first time too. We'll get it done. It says orient it with the center post. This is the center post facing up. So that's towards the camera, and the battery compartment in the 6 o'clock position. Okay, so you've got your circle right here at the top, your battery compartment facing the bottom. Place the clock base over the center post of the clock mechanism. Set that down. Set that on top. I'm going to pick it up just for a moment. Since I'm doing this sideways, I want to make sure that everything is aligned. Like that. I'm double checking. I'm going to go ahead and set it back down. Place the stitched clock insert inside the clock base. Align your insert so your number 12 is exactly in the 12 o'clock position. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to trim the little center part out here. That was the last step after you turn it inside out. Trim the stabilizer in the center. So if you didn't do that already, you want to trim that out. It's not perfect, but the hardware is going to go on top of it, so don't worry if it's not perfect. You're going to set your stitch piece right there. Now I'm going to turn this towards me again for a moment. I want to make sure that I'm lined up, which is hard to do because now I've completely covered that piece. Okay, what we're going to do, what I'm going to do, because it's going to help me, I'm going to grab a piece of tape. There's tape on the packaging. I'm just going to take a little tiny piece of tape. I'm going to grab a pen. And I'm going to make a mark. Since I'm filming, I can't get quite to where I need to have things positioned. So it sometimes is a little bit difficult. Not quite. I'm marking the center for me so I can see what I'm doing as I'm filming and keep the camera angle good for you. That looks good. You can do that too if it helps you. Let's put our post back on. Battery pack on the bottom. I'm going to turn it towards me for a moment. I've got my center line. Actually, I can turn it towards you because now I've got that line. I'm going to put this down. Oh, that's better. Yeah, that helps a lot. I'm going to slide it. There we go. Now I can see the center and I'm all lined up. That really helped. The next step is to place the washer on the center post, then the nuts on the center post and finger tighten. If you've never worked with hardware before, the round donut's your washer, and then this is your nut. So grab your nut and your washer. So the first thing that goes down is your washer. Set that down. Now you want to grab the nut. It's going to sit down. And it says to finger tighten. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. Mine's just spinning. You need to, if yours is just spinning, you need to pick this up, hold this on the back, and this does have two little bumps here, so you can push your clock battery compartment right up against that. Push it a little bit, and then it feels like it's catching the, now it's catching the threads. So now I'm able to, yep, there we go. Now I can finger tighten it. So if yours was just spinning like mine was, that means it was floating on top of the threads on the post. The threads are the little metal things that go around the post. Now it's finger tightened. So you might just need to kind of push everything lightly and finger tighten that. I'm going to go ahead and set that back down. And I'm going to pull off this piece of tape because we're done with the piece of tape. You want to find the hands for your watch. The short one is the hour hand. This longer middle one is the minute hand, and the really long one is the second hand. It tells you to align the hour hand, so we're going to start with this one. I'm going to go ahead and set that down and set these off to the side. We're going to take our hour hand, which has a piece of, these have plastic on them. The plastic needs to come off. Go ahead and take that off. There you go. Now it looks nice. Take your hour hand, put it in the 12 o'clock position and press it firmly all the way to the lowest level of the center post. Okie dokie. Oh, I see. You can feel it. Okay. I'm going to pick this up and get a look at it. I don't think it'll go any lower. Can you see that? It doesn't push down any further, so I'm going to guess that that's okay. Align the minute hand in the 12 o'clock position and press it firmly to the center level. I guess I'll find out if that's on the lower level, won't I? Go ahead and peel that plastic off too. If your hands look gray, that's because of the plastic. You need to peel it off and then they'll look black. Okay. I feel like they're on there okay. And it says the second hand press into the top level. So the second hand has this post, and then it has the button. So the button's going to be on the outside. That makes sense because I have no more room for another hand on there. It's just not going to fit. So that'll go in the center of your clock and push down. It feels like everything is in. It looks like everything is in. Hold the clock base at eye level and make sure all 3 hands are parallel to the clock insert. Straighten the hands with your fingers if necessary. Okay, it wants you to tilt, and can you see? It looks like I bent the second hand, so I'm going to want to fix that and sort of gently bend it back up. That's better. All the hands are straight. These are bendable. Make sure, if they're not perfectly straight, that's okay. Just make sure that they're not going to run into each other as they go around the clock. So everything is in its place. There we go. We're going to say that that's good. Take your plastic front, and it says this is optional. You don't have to use this piece if you don't want to. I'm going to use it. I want to keep dust off of it. I'm in Arizona. It's dusty. Check for any loose threads on your project. Anything else, make sure your jump threads are cut. I'm going to set the clock cover on top of the clock base. Yes, this is the clock cover. Okay, this doesn't go inside. It just sets right on top of that white ring. Orient the wooden clock ring with the lipped edge facing up. That's this edge. It has a lip on the inside. So it goes this way. And the seam in the 12 o'clock position. There's the seam. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, press the clock ring onto the clock base. Seam, my fingers on the seam. Okay. Turn the clock to the back. Do not jostle the clock. The hands may move out of position. Well, they're already kind of out of position. See? That's okay. Because, here, let me pick this up real quick. Let me pick this up. Let me move this. Plastic ring. Now, see, the minute you set it down and you touch it, your second hand is going to move. There's no way to do this without the hand moving. At least I think. Okay, we're just going to go with it. That's better. Okay, get your hands underneath. There we are. Looks good. Turn the clock to the back. Using the included mini screwdriver. Here's your mini screwdriver. Tighten 4 screws in the slots of the clock base until each screw is engaged a few turns into the clock ring. Look at your picture and your instructions for where the screws need to go. Let's see. I don't think there's a pre-drilled, there's not a pre-drilled hole, but if you just give it a little push, it goes right in. Just want to tighten them so that it holds the clock together. You've got to apply a little bit of pressure. This is a little bit fiddly. If you've got dexterity or maybe arthritis problems, you might need to have somebody help you with this. These are tiny screws, and to get it to screw into the clock base, you do have to give it a little bit of pressure. Let's put the last 3 screws in. Yeah, this is fiddly. If I could figure out a way to do this with my glue gun, I would. You probably could. You could probably put a little bit of glue, but you'd have to be really careful because you don't want it to seep through to the front of your project. Let's get these last few screws in. Give it a little push, and then that'll hold it in place. And then get your screwdriver in, and you do have to push and turn. And this is in the way. It's very awkward. I think I have them screwed in far enough to hold the clock together. I'm going to take some of this tape. This is label tape. It's sort of like super thick washi tape because it comes on and off of things and it doesn't leave a residue. This is the back of the clock. I'm taping these. I want to make sure that they stay on, and when I hang my clock on the wall, that this doesn't come apart. You may have had better luck with that. I have really big hands. You know, if you've got the clock, you can figure out how big my hands are. So I found it a little difficult to get in there with the itty bitty teeny weeny screws and the screwdriver. Another thing you could do that I thought about doing, but I want to finish the video and I don't need it to have to sit overnight, is if you have some E6000, it's a jewelry glue, at least that's what I use it for, and it dries clear, you could put a little drop on the screws and then let that set and let it dry overnight. It's a very strong bonding glue. Just precautionary. You do not have to do what I'm doing right now. This is because I don't have the confidence in my ability to have those screwed in completely. This way they won't fall off. Battery. You can look in the battery pack and it tells you which way to place the battery. Just be gentle with it. Look, the second hand is moving. Oh, for a second there I thought I had something stuck under the plastic. Boy, would I have been mad. I'll just dust that off. This is my little hedgehog duster. A friend of mine gave it to me years ago. It's $2.54. If you've never set one of these before, you use the wheel. Close enough. Now it is ready to hang up. I'll get it hung up in my sewing room and I'll show you. The clock is hung up. It's right at the entrance to my sewing room with a couple of temperature cross stitches that I did a few years ago. It looks great. I love it. What a fun project. I hope you've enjoyed the video and you've got your clock done and hung up so you can enjoy it. Thanks for watching, everyone.